Hello, I'm here to talk to you about maps, and today we have something very exciting to talk about. Earlier in May, the Department of Transport released the first major update to Melbourne's tram network map in over 4 years. We don't normally get many updates to our transport maps in Victoria, so when we do get one, it's especially exciting. I'm going to go through some of the key differences here. This is not a list of everything that's changed in the map, these are just some of the things that I've pulled out to talk about. If you are interested, there's also a blog post on my website, which I've linked to in the description below. I've also posted links to the old tram map and the new tram map for you to compare. The first thing to talk about is street names. Now, the previous design had famously left them out, other than a few in the CBD. The previous map design, which was released in 2011, had included most of these street names, and removing those was seen generally as a step backwards because it made the map more difficult to read. The new map from this year has reintroduced street names, which I think is great. This will probably benefit visitors and irregular travellers more than your daily commuters, but that's fine because they're generally the ones who are using these maps anyway. A second addition to the map is landmarks. Similar to street names, in the 2017 design, landmarks were removed. This new map has brought in 33 major landmarks, which are all indicated with a black dot and text next to it. A related addition to the map is a new key landmark section, which is in the bottom right hand corner underneath the legend. And I think this is a nice little touch to add to the map. There are some questionable names in here though, like calling Melbourne an Olympic Park just Tennis Centre, because this doesn't reflect any of the signage or other announcements or wayfinding that refers to it as Melbourne Park or Melbourne an Olympic Park. Another interesting one is just Stadium Precinct Docklands, which I think is a way of Yarra Trams trying to get around the fact that Dockland Stadium keeps changing its name every few years. For example, when it changed from Etihad Stadium to Marvel Stadium, they had lots of problems updating their signage and the passenger information displays on the trams, which just confused people for several months. Another thing to note here is that not all the landmarks shown on the map are included in the key landmarks legend. As I've said before about some other map designs, I think you either include all the information or none of it and just leave it out, with a few minor exceptions to that rule. If you're interested in reading more about that, I've put a link in the description to my post about Skybus where I talk about it in a little bit more detail. A third new thing is hospitals. A lot of major hospitals have now been added onto the map. It's an interesting design choice that I think is worth mentioning on its own because they've basically pulled them out of landmarks and created them as a separate category. I'm not 100% sure why they've done this, but I guess it's probably because there are a lot of people using trams to access hospitals. There are one or two hospitals missing though. Footscray Hospital is missing, and that's only a couple of minutes walk away from the Ballarat Road Gordon Street tram stop on Route 82. And there's also the I&E Hospital, which is very, very close to St Vincent's Plaza, and also another tram stop on MacArthur Street. And I think both of those should be added in given how close they are to existing tram stops. Another new thing on the map is Albert Park Lake. And I'm mentioning this specifically because it's the only major body of water other than the Yarra River and Port Phillip Bay that's been included. And I can't really think of a reason why, other than maybe it's a local landmark or because that's where the Grand Prix is held and quite a few people use the tram to get to the Grand Prix. So if anyone knows or you have any other theories, please let me know in the comments. Now we're going to talk about some of the changes on the map, and I think this is where it gets really interesting because there are quite a few changes that have been made. Some of them are great and others I think need a little bit more work. The first one, which is very exciting, is that the Terminus names are now much bigger. And now I think this is the single best improvement to the map that's been made. Basically what's happened is that all of the terminus labels and route numbers at the end of the tram lines have been increased in size significantly. On the previous map from 2017, the text size was very small and it was at the same size as, for example, a hospital label or a road name. So as I've said before, when you're designing a map, you need to create a clear visual hierarchy. Basically what this means is that you want the most important information to be most visible to people when they first glance at it. And obviously one of the ways to do this is to make text larger or objects larger and look at colours and all that sort of thing. So because the terminating stop name is so important to identifying tram lines in Melbourne, creating a visual hierarchy in this case means making that much more prominent. And I think they've done a great job by making the text size much bigger. I think they've made it a bit bolder as well. And also the route number is displayed much more prominently. So overall, as I said, I think this is the biggest single improvement that's been made to the map. A second change that's been made is that lines are now less straight. This one's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how well it's performed on the map, in my opinion. So on the 2017 design, compared to the 2011 design, a lot of the lines were straightened and simplified. Overall, I think this is a good thing because it helps people to follow the lines more easily. Most of this has been retained in the new map, which is great, but there have also been a lot of corners and bends that have been added into the tram lines. By the look of it, a lot of these bends have been added in for design rather than usability reasons. For example, if you look at the Route 1 and 6 bend on Elgin Street, just north of Melbourne University, it's significantly larger on the map than it is in real life. Now, to me, it looks like this has been done to accommodate the Route 6 Terminus label, which is a bit further north, because this has been made much larger, as we mentioned before. There's nothing inherently wrong with this. I mean, that's completely fine to make some design choices to help fit in labels and that sort of thing. We've all done it before. But there are some bends on this map that don't appear to have been done for that reason. And I think this just makes the map more cluttered. Generally, the straighter the line on a map like this, the easier it is to follow. On a related note, there is one important exception to this overall design choice to make the tram lines less straight, and this is the Route 78. This is because on the 2017 map, the Route 78 was shown with a massive bend in the middle. Its actual geography, of course, is that it is the only tram route in Melbourne to travel in almost an entirely straight line. So now on this new map, it has been shown as a straight line going all the way from North Richmond down Church and Chapel Street to Balaclava. And that's very exciting for, gunzels and cartographers alike. A third change to the map is that the word station has now been added onto railway station names. I think this is a great addition to the map because if you're not familiar with Melbourne or the transport network, you might look at that little blue dot and think, well, what does that actually mean? And then you'd have to look at the legend. So by adding the word station, you remove that need to look at the legend, which is always a good thing. So there's some of the new things and some of the changes that have been made to Melbourne's tram map. Overall, I think these changes are great and have added a lot of really useful things to the map. However, as usual, there are still one or two little things that I would like to see improved in any future versions. One thing I would like to see in future versions of the map is major tram interchanges. Some of these have been included in the new map design, but not all of them. So Abbotsford Interchange, despite not being in Abbotsford, which I think is a very strange name, has been added, and St Kilda Junction has been added as well, but some other major ones such as Hawthorn Bridge and even Camberwell Junction have not been labelled. So as I've said before, if you're adding features like this to a map, you should be including all of them or none of them with some minor exceptions. I think these would be a great addition to the map because you do find people changing between tram lines quite a bit, more so than say the train network, which is much more radial. One other small improvement that I would like to see is for DOT to publish this map as a vector file. Now, the new tram map, for some reason, has been published as a raster file in a PDF. Basically, this means that you can't zoom in past a certain point before it starts to become pixelated and unreadable. This also makes the file larger, it makes it more difficult for search engines to find text, and it also makes it less compatible with devices to improve accessibility, such as screen readers. I can't think of a reason why this might have been done deliberately, so I'm guessing it was an error, and hopefully it's fixed in the near future. So a lot of this is just me being pedantic, really. Overall, this is a great map redesign that has fixed quite a few things that people were asking for from the old map, as well as brought in some new stuff that has made the map more user-friendly. Now, I think this is probably going to be the last major update that we see on this map before the Metro tunnel opens in 2025. This is because when that happens, there are all these major tram network changes that are going to happen. The reason for this is the Metro tunnel will run parallel to Swanston Street underground. Now, Swanston Street at the moment is the busiest section of tram track anywhere in the world, so some of those trams will get reallocated to other spots around the network. There'll also be some other minor tram improvements, such as building tracks from the Elizabeth Street terminus onto Flinders Street, and this will allow trams to continue onto Flinders Street rather than terminating at the station. What this means exactly and what routes will be changed and how, we don't know yet, nothing's been published, but I'm guessing that as we approach the completion of the Metro tunnel, we'll see more and more information come out. So that's it, they're my thoughts on the new tram map for Melbourne for 2021. It's great. Go out and check it out. If you're interested in reading more detail, have a look at the blog post, which is linked in the description just below, as well as links to the old and new map for you to compare. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, and if you're interested in more cool stuff from this channel, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.